Μπαίνουμε στο τέταρτο φόρουμ του σημερινού.
So now we are moving to the fourth panel of today's forum, organized by the Pan-Hellenic Exporters Association in the Hellenic-American Chamber of Commerce of New York. I would like to welcome Mr. Karavias, Chief Executive Officer of Eurobank, Mrs. Chatzipetrou, President and Managing Director of Hellenic Development Bank, and Ms. Nancy Papaioannou, President Atlantic Bank from New York City. I would like to welcome our guests, and I would like to say that taking measures to restrict the pandemic is very important, but it's also important to return to normality and fast. It is important to focus on strategic sectors so that Greece may benefit from global recovery in 1 to 2 years from now. And this is something that must be done. Banks can contribute to this effort, and their contribution will be decisive. The measures adopted by the state to support citizens and enterprises are moving to the right direction, but it's now clear that they are not enough in order to change the negative environment in the markets. A great contribution to the future recovery will be made by the Greek banking system. The EU intends to provide flexibility to the central banks of member states throughout this period, so governments must intervene in order to allow credits from banks to businesses, allowing them to limit the consequences of the pandemic. Christine Lagarde, the president of European Central Bank, started this procedure, for example, with the issuance of bonds and improving liquidity. There is some concern regarding how banks can meet the needs of this era. It seems that banks are not so eager to provide loans to enterprises and businesses. We are looking forward to listening what the contribution of banks will be to growth and exports. I would like to give the floor to the Chief Executive Officer of Eurobank, Fokion Karavias. Thank you, Mr. Zois. Addressing the members of the Pan-Hellenic Exporters Association, I would like to say, dear partners, dear friends, and I'm using the word partners because Greek exporters are not simple or any other type of partners. We are stable partners in our common efforts to make Greek entrepreneurship more healthy and Greek markets open to the international market. I would like to congratulate the Pan-Hellenic Exporters Association for 75 years of constant creative presence to the economic life of Greece. And of course, it would be impossible to omit making reference to the president of the association, Mrs. Christina Sakelaridou. Her name is synonymous to the Pan-Hellenic Exporters Association. So your activity is linked to Greek experts right now. We are going through an unprecedented crisis. It is a disturbance, both in terms of demand and supply, at the same time, globally, that has never happened in the past. And it also has an impact on international trade. The World Trade Organization estimates that there will be a drop in the volume of global international transactions by 9.2%, and there will be an increase, a low increase, around 7.2% for 2021. These estimates do not incorporate the second lockdown and the second wave of COVID-19 experienced by many EU countries that could reduce the numbers by 1 to 2%. And of course, the pandemic affects the EU market, to which Greece also belongs. There is no doubt that 2020 is a difficult year, not only for the world but also for Greece after the second lockdown. Estimates are that recession will be around 10% and the deficit will be over 5%. Exports are reducing faster than the reduction of imports, mainly due to the services sector and especially the tourism sector. 2021 is a critical year, and the baseline scenario shows an important recovery around 5%, but we will have to wait for 2 to 3 years in order to return to 2019 levels. And of course, there is always an uncertainty factor with regard to these predictions. However, there are good news, as soon we will have vaccines available, and there are other good news that we heard today, that next week we will have the first vaccination plan in the UK. Another good aspect is that right now we have the necessary resources and planning in order to reinforce the extroversy of the Greek economy. The EU funds that will come to Greece in the next years from various sources exceed 70 billion. The Recovery Fund loans will be allocated to the private sector and, among other things, to reinforce experts. The only condition is to have achieved 50% of investment financing from own funds and bank loans. Now, I would also like to say that banks, and Eurobank in particular, are ready to support companies, and this year the credit extended to businesses is higher than in the past decade. The Pisaridis committee and the Pisaridis report mentions some basic priorities, that the central goal of the Greek economy for the years to come must be the systematic increase of productivity and extroversion for our economy. It is the first time that Greece has such a clear and well-processed plan in place. There is political will, there is social cohesion around this plan in order to develop a well-established growth economy based on experts. You might remember that Eurobank was the first bank that far back in 2009, in very difficult conditions, spoke openly and in practice about the need to create a sustainable productive model based on innovation and extroversion. A few days ago, we organized online, as is the trend nowadays, an important business meeting in the context of Trade Club Alliance with the participation of 6 banks and more than 100 companies from 4 continents. So, as many of the exporters know, through Trade Club Alliance, we provide Greek businesses with the opportunity to approach certified partners throughout the world through a bank network in 60 countries, the US, South America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. Long before the pandemic, we increased our digitization through trade corridors, creating connections between clients of all these banks. All this, combined with the special services we provide to exporters, support our partnership with the Greek exporters community, especially considering the crisis we are going through today. To close, I would like to highlight something that has always been important for us in Eurobank, that our business strategy is to be a growth bank, to be the cornerstone of growth. And this is why we want to collaborate with the most healthy, the most dynamic part of Greek entrepreneurship, that is export companies. I would like to thank the exporters from everything we have achieved together so far, especially in the past 10 years. and we are looking forward to doing even more in the future. And of course, we hope that the Pan-Hellenic Exporters Association could celebrate 100 years of existence, contributing constantly to the well-being and wealth of our country. Thank you, Mr. Karavias. I see some notes and some questions asked by our exporters watching you from Greece or from abroad. We have very positive comments. I would like to give the floor right away to Ms. Athina Chatzipetrou. She's President and Managing Director of Hellenic Development Bank, and afterwards we could take some questions if we have the time. You have the floor, Ms. Chatzipetrou. Hello, everyone, dear friends. I believe that it's a great honor for me to have been invited to this Pan-Hellenic Exporters Association conference. And I would like to thank my dear friend Christina Sakellari, an emblematic figure for experts in the past and for many years to come. Today, this is one of the most important business events. We are celebrating 75 years from the foundation of the association. We hope that next year we will celebrate it all together. We will celebrate the 76 years of the association all together with better sanitary, financial and statistic data. So, I will start by focusing on some things because I'm surrounded by two bankers, Mr. Karavias and Mrs. Papaioannou. So I believe that I have to develop the Hellenic Development Bank and the important steps taken by the bank I am currently representing in the past 9 months. I would like to highlight the particular and difficult role played in the financing of the Greek economy in the peak of the pandemic. In February 2020, we started, this is when I started in the management of the bank in February 2020, and our order was to become a motor, a catalyst of liquidity in the very difficult times for our economy. Today, I can say with satisfaction and a dose of pride that the results of this effort are based on two parallel axes. First of all, we used fast, effectively and reliably important community resources. There is an increase of take-up from funds from the National Statistic Reference Framework, and we contributed to that. We made resources motor for the growth of enterprises. At the same time, we mobilized and reinforced the Greek banking system that was injured. It was a system that was actually recovering from a traumatic relation with NPLs. So we presented well-designed and structured products with specific targeting and therefore increasing the total number of loans. The 8th evaluation report of the European Commission mentions that the Hellenic Development Bank created a reliable framework of guarantees and other subsidies for new company loans that was very successful. And this is something that was very important. The annual growth of bank credits in non-financial companies amounted to plus 8.3% in September 2020. This has to do with our programs, the programs provided by the Hellenic Development Bank to businessmen. This was the first goal of today's activities, to make good use of available EU resources and contribute significantly to the effort of increasing financed enterprises. So, using the existing instruments, the leverage of public resources created real liquidity amounting to around 9 billion euro within the last 8 months of 2020. We are talking about 21,000 loans amounting to 5.5 billion. This is the highest capital leverage created in the history of the Hellenic Development Bank in any form it had in the past. We should take into account that NPLs in the Greek market are up around 61 billion, and we want to believe that through the right products, we managed to have an increase of credit of 15.5%. Let me mention some numbers regarding the attractiveness of the new products. The disbursed loans for 2020 are 6 times higher compared to the 5-year period 2010-2014, and 10 times more compared to the loans of the 5-year period 2015-2019. The number of financing approved in the year 2020, in the past 8 months, exceeds the amount of all approved financing in the previous decade, from 2010 to 2019. I would like to note something else, an ability that we did not have in the past and we now have acquired. Recently, we developed something that can be used to the benefit of export enterprises in the future, considering the special relationship we have developed with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the organizations for promoting exports, such as the Pan-Hellenic Exporters Association and other associations. For the first time in Greece, the Hellenic Development Bank can process data and information from many tax identification numbers and various types of enterprises. Through this data, we can create targeted and effective government intervention programs in specific sectors of the real economy, such as the import sector. We are making use of the experience by other banks, such as the banks from France or the Development Bank of Germany, the UK. We collaborate with those banks so that this big database of information and data may allow us to intervene, to make interventions in strategic sectors such as exports. Mr. Karavias mentioned the report of Pisaridis committee. There is a conclusion in the report, something that we must keep in mind for the next years. Greek exports can increase by 30% in the years to come. So we are all aiming towards this goal, towards a systematic increase of extroversion. You're running out of time. Yes, I will finish now. The Greek banking system and the Hellenic Development Bank can create new financing programs in order to support businesses. So I would like to close by saying that this is a commitment for us. And I promise that next year I will give you concrete results at the 76th anniversary of the Pan-Hellenic Exporters Association, and we hope that we will be able to celebrate it live together. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Athina Chatzipetrou. And now we will give the floor to New York. Thanks to technology, we will hear from Greek working and living there, Nancy Papaioannou, President of Atlantic Bank. She will talk about her view on Greek exporters and what the bank does, the Atlantic Bank can do for them. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I would like to start by saying congratulations to the organizers of this forum, both the Greek and the American branch of the organizers, the Greek and the American branch of the Hellenic-American Chamber of Commerce. You know very well that the Atlantic Bank is a bank operating in the USA for more than 100 years. servicing both Greek citizens and American Greeks for any kind of transactions. I was lucky enough to come here from the National Bank of Greece 30 years ago. The Atlantic Bank was at that time an affiliate of the National Bank of Greece. And I am saying this because it's very important for our forum today. Because when we had the National Bank as our partner, we had an easier borrowing mechanism for those entrepreneurs who wanted to come to the US. Because we had guarantees, we had a partner in Greece that knew the customer. So we had the KYC. After 2005, Atlantic Bank is incorporated within a new group that supports the Greek character of our bank. We still have this role since 1926, actually. And until 2005, we were in the same building with the Hellenic-American Chamber. I had the honor to chair it for some years. So starting with these words, I just want to share with you the environment that we have. Apart from the pandemic, this year, we had the elections as well, that were a major challenge for the markets and an instability factor indeed. Nevertheless, what we do see as Greeks in the US, Greece has turned a page. It has turned a page no matter the situation that we're going through. And we see a future. And as long as we see this future ahead, and since we have the opportunity to support Greeks to expand to the world, and especially the American market, why not? There is no American exceptionalism. Greeks can do anything as long as there is good cooperation and a good proposal. In the past, there were many problems, but now the companies grow in terms of size and in terms of planning. They can act in a better way. They have a lot of people. They have a lot of support. So I think that for us, it's a very good opportunity. More than 60% of Atlantic Bank personnel, almost 200 people, have Greek origin and speak the Greek language. So here we are to support those Greeks that wish to expand. Based on my experience in the chamber and based on my career in the National Bank of Greece, we can give them advice, we can guide them to speak to them about the taxation scheme here and guide them, mentor them to success. We do so, and we want to continue doing it. And now that Greece is turning a page, we want to be here for them. I'm here at your disposition. If you have any question, if you have anything that you face, we have the personnel and we have the knowledge to support you, to advise you. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Papaioannou. So these are our three panelists for this panel, and I can pose a question to you, Mr. Karavias. When do you think that the market is going back to normal? Everybody waits for this. Of course, the USA branch of the chamber has to the extra challenge of the elections. But nevertheless, Mr. Karavias, when do you expect the balance coming back? Mr. Zois, I shall say what is expected from me to say, that this is related to the developments in the pandemic. I think that no matter how difficult the things are today, this is the first time that we see a light at the end of the tunnel. That's the first time that we see so. So I believe that it is a matter of weeks maybe until the vaccinations start in Europe and in Greece, hopefully. As we just read in the newspaper, in the UK, vaccinations will start next week. So this means that the economic and financial normality is related to the developments in the sector of the vaccines and the pandemic. I believe that until the summer of 2021, at a large degree, will have been back to normal. So in which sectors will you emphasize in 2021? Let's leave 2020 behind. I hope that it's going to be a black year. So what's going to be the white year of 2021? This is related to our customers. We want to follow our customers in the choices they make, and we want to support them. I think that we want to support our clients in all sectors. There are some sectors in the Greek economy where activity is higher. Energy, for example, tourism, despite the pandemic, remains active. The interest is great by Greek and foreign funds. We see that the market slowly understands. We understand that the country has advantages. We see new investments. We see the industry active, new industries as well. Data centers, for example, is an investment that is an important one. Fortunately, the country will not in the future be dependent on one or two sectors, but we see a broader dispersion of risks. Mrs. Chatzipetrou, Mr. Karavias said that he's widely open. What about you? What kind of instruments you have in place so as to help our exporters? As we already said, the first wave of the pandemic, during the first wave of the pandemic, we wanted to protect the economy. So we had to establish a safety net for the economy. Now, as regards development, we follow the agenda of sustainable development. In other words, what we are going to see after the end of the pandemic is products that will be green, will be digital, and will be extrovert. So we're going to support the sectors that are included in the development, the growth plan of Greece, which is going to be the growth plan of Europe, in other words. So we have a more targeted now solution, and through our interventions, we're going to try to be catalytic so as to improve our cooperation with the banks in these sectors. And now, Mrs. Papaioannou, you spoke about 200 employers that speak Greek in your bank. Let me say that we have seen that exports to the US have not been doing very well lately. So what type of changes would you see that could reverse this? Let me say that we have approximately 200 personnel in Atlantic Bank from Greek origin or speaking Greek. What we can do for Greek exporters is that we can be the first station for them. In the US, it is not easy if you are a foreign management company, a non-American company, to open up an account or to take a guarantee letter or to have a premises, the American premises, and go on. When Greece was under a crisis, today also and tomorrow also opens up bank accounts to Greek companies. I'm not saying that we are a big bank, but let me give you an example. When the American government, in the beginning of the pandemic, gave the PPP loans, Citibank and Chase, which are the big banks, would approach their clients in a digital manner. We had our personnel and we would call them. We would call the Greek American companies who are in the USA, and we would speak with them and guide them how to take these loans, what kind of documents they needed, etc. So we are a small bank that can do big things. And as I mentioned before, we started as an affiliate of the National Bank of Greece. Though Greece at that time was not so fast as it is today, but nevertheless, we could do more because an exporter coming to the Americas cannot borrow money from an American bank. But if we had a mediation via a Greek bank to us with some guarantees and due diligence on their behalf, we could do a lot. Of course, in combination with my experience from the Chamber of Commerce, I can assure you that we can provide mentoring services for any company to flourish here. Thank you. We don't have much time, unfortunately, so we have to thank sincerely Mr. Karavias, CEO of Eurobank SA, Mrs. Chatzipetrou, CEO of the Greek Development Bank, and Mrs. Papaioannou, President of Atlantic Bank, for their participation in this panel. Thank you. 5 minutes break.